I had known my best friend Jake since childhood. We grew up playing in the same parks and going to school together, and as we got older, we trusted each other with everything. By the time we graduated college, Jake and I were practically brothers. We celebrated successes and comforted each other through failures, and I truly believed nothing could come between us. In fact, we even became college roommates our senior year, playing video games and sharing secrets. I remember in high school, when I was struggling with math, Jake stayed after class to tutor me every day. When I thought I might never pass, he never let me give up. He even taught me to ride a bike and fix my old radio just to see me smile. At prom, he insisted I dance when I felt nervous, and he was the first person to call me with good news when I got into college. We made plans for vacations, double weddings, and even the businesses we swore we'd start together someday. Those memories felt like iron chains linking us. After college, we both landed jobs at the same marketing firm. We even shared a beat-up pickup truck, with me taking the morning shift and Jake the evening shift, so we'd always commute to work together. After long days at the office, Jake would often come over to my apartment, and we'd unwind by cooking dinner or playing video games late into the night. Everything felt amazing. Our careers were on track, we had each other's backs, and life seemed like one long victory. I felt incredibly lucky to have a best friend like him. That comfort made it hard to notice the subtle changes in Jake. Early that year, he started coming to work late and leaving early, almost like he was trying to avoid something. He became distant during lunch breaks, often staring at his phone or zoning out of our conversations. Once I even caught a desperate, guilty look in his eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. I assumed he was just stressed or had family issues. I was wrong. I still remember the last night before everything changed. We went out to celebrate finalizing a major campaign, and I toasted to our future, joking that nothing would ever tear us apart. Just a week after that toast, my world turned upside down. It was a quiet Thursday evening, and I was finishing a report at the office. Jake said he'd handle a big client meeting the next morning, so I stayed late to wrap things up. Proud of a job well done, I shut down my computer around 10 p.m. and drove home. I had no idea that would be the last time I ever left that office building as an innocent man. A few hours later at midnight, two police officers knocked on my apartment door. They looked serious as they showed me their badges. "We have some questions," one said. The other officer passed me a printout. It showed a large transfer of money out of our company's account to a private account in my name. I stared at it in disbelief. "This must be a mistake," I said. "I didn't do this. I was home all night." They exchanged a glance but remained silent. One gently told me to come with them for a few questions. The next morning, I was in a cold interrogation room. A detective slid another document across the table, the company's ledger entry. There it was, time-stamped at 11:45 p.m. under my username. My stomach dropped. He said quietly, "We also have a statement from your colleague, Jake Thompson." I looked up through the glass and saw Jake standing outside talking with another officer. The detective continued, "He says he saw you in the office that night, acting suspiciously by the server." My heart pounded. "He said I was there? Why would he say that?" I blurted. The detective sighed and said, "He's very sure, John." Then he leaned in. "Be careful what you say next. Words can hurt you here." He left the room with the papers, leaving me alone to process it. I walked out of that station and into the morning sun, reeling. I had just realized that my best friend had betrayed me. News of Jake's tip spread through the office by noon. Rumors exploded. Colleagues I once joked with now gave me awkward looks and asked if I was okay. My phone buzzed constantly. Some texts were comforting, others were just stunned. Someone said they heard I was the main suspect. By the end of the day, I felt like I was sinking. No one blamed Jake. He looked innocent in comparison. My name had been dragged through the mud. I felt utterly betrayed and destroyed. The next few days were a haze of fear and despair. I kept telling myself this would be fixed, but every new evidence felt like another nail in my coffin. My bank account was frozen, and I couldn't even pay my rent. I had to borrow money from my parents just to buy groceries. My car's tank was nearly empty, and I didn't have the funds to fill it. Even small things like showering or going outside became nightmares. Then my fiancée. One night I came home and found her packing a suitcase, Her eyes were red from crying. I, I'm so sorry, John, she whispered. I don't know what to do. This is too scary. I begged her to stay, but she shook her head. She left without another word. I realized then that the person I had thought I could always count on had been frightened enough to abandon me too. My parents were frantic. Mom called me crying every night, insisting she believed in me no matter what. Dad stormed to the police station, demanding to see the evidence. But despite their support, I felt utterly alone. Friends and neighbors gave me weird looks. The security guard at the apartment building asked for ID every time I came home. Every night I lay awake, replaying everything. I kept thinking about that look on Jake's face during lunch. Not worry, it was guilt. The realization hit me like a punch in the gut. He had set me up. My best friend was capable of destroying the life I had built. That realization fueled something in me. I promised myself I wouldn't break, I wouldn't let Jake win. I wiped my eyes in the darkness and decided right then, I would fight back. I became an investigator. I started retracing every step of that night. First, I checked my phone's GPS and call logs. They showed I was at home by 9 p.m. and stayed there. No way I could have been in the office at 11:45. Next, I obtained the building's keycard logs, telling it was needed for an insurance audit. My heart pounded when I saw them. Jake's badge had opened the office at 11:30 p.m. and my badge at 11:45 p.m. I remembered that I hadn't been near the building after work. It suddenly clicked. Jake must have used my badge after framing me. Then I got the security camera footage of the lobby from that night. I sat for hours watching it. At 11:50 p.m., a tall figure in a hoodie appeared on screen carrying a duffel bag. I paused the video. The bag's logo, it was my old sports team's logo, the same one on Jake's old gear. I replayed it again and again. The way that person walked, their posture. It was him, Jake, leaving the office at midnight. I called Nina. In a quiet diner booth, I showed her the images and printouts. She was shocked. That has to be him, she said, voice trembling. Sam arrived too and confirmed he had indeed seen someone leaving late that night. He said he thought it was me at the time, but now it made sense. It was Jake. I sat down and made a list of everything I had found. Every piece fit perfectly. The evidence was overwhelming. The truth was out. Jake had set me up. I felt a mix of fury and vindication. Finally, I had a way to prove my innocence. I knew I had to be strategic. I spent hours at my kitchen table planning. I made a list of steps. Gather evidence. I collected all the logs, screenshots, and footage. Everything I had against Jake was organized in a folder. Get backup. I told Nina and Sam exactly what I found. They believed me completely and agreed to support me. We also confided in a trusted family friend who was a private investigator. He offered to coordinate with the police. Confront Jake. We decided to lure him to our old coffee shop. I would pretend I was at my wit's end and needed his help to get him talking. Involve the police. With the investigators' help, 2 officers were to be nearby. At the first sign Jake would flee or hurt me, they'd step in. Later that afternoon, I sent Jake a text. I'm completely lost. Please, I need to talk. My hands trembled as I hit send. He replied with a time. In the coffee shop, I took a deep breath and gathered the folder in my phone. This was it. I walked into the coffee shop and saw Jake at our usual table. He looked relieved to see me. I sat down across from him. Jake, thank God you're here, I began quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't know what's real anymore. They showed me that email confession. I keep thinking it's a dream, but it's there, with my name on it. Jake immediately tried to reassure me. I know this is horrible, he said, placing a hand on my shoulder, but you have to believe me. I know you would never do something like that. He sounded sincere inside. I was furious. I slid my phone and the evidence folder onto the table. Then explain this, I said softly. I flipped it open to the picture from the security camera. Jake's eyes went wide. That bag, I pointed at the photo, that logo, that was your sports bag from college, remember? His face went white. Next, I showed him the keycard logs. Your badge was used at 11:30 p.m., mine at 11:45. I wasn't there. How do you explain that? He staggered, trying to keep his voice even. John, you can't be serious, he stuttered. This is some kind of sick joke. I wish it was, I said quietly. Suddenly, two police officers burst in through the door. Police, don't move, one shouted. The other calmly announced, Jake Thompson, you're under arrest. Jake's eyes darted to me, panic-stricken. He started to protest, but the officer cuffed him. As they let him out, he managed to choke out, John, I'm sorry. I sat there trembling, relief and disbelief washing over me. The officers collected the photo, logs, and my recording as evidence. They told me I was free to go. I nodded and walked out of the cafe. As I stepped outside into the fresh air, I finally allowed myself to breathe. By the next morning, the office was buzzing. My boss found me at my desk. He looked relieved and began apologizing immediately. John, we were mistaken. You're completely cleared, he said. That afternoon, the company announced to everyone that Jake was responsible and I was innocent. People came by my desk to shake my hand or give me a hug. Some had been afraid to talk to me before, but now they were smiling. Nina and Sam were already by my side, grinning from ear to ear. Even colleagues who had doubted me were apologizing. I felt a strange mix of gratitude and disbelief. Finally, I could breathe again. That evening, I went home and locked my door. I collapsed on the couch and cried tears of relief. My phone lit up with messages of support. For the first time in months, I felt like everything was going to be okay. Life slowly returned to normal. I found a new apartment closer to work. The company even gave me a small bonus for having handled the ordeal. I took a few days off to decompress. My parents took me fishing that weekend. We caught some trout and laughed like old times. I also had to rebuild parts of my personal life. I sat down with my fiancée and explained everything. She was shocked and said she was so sorry. We hugged and promised to stay friends, but we both knew our relationship was over. It hurt, but I understood. Some things just couldn't go back to how they were. I still carry scars from what happened. I became much more cautious, changing passwords often, getting a home security system, and backing up important files regularly. But I also feel stronger now. I know who my real friends are. Whenever I see an online story about someone being falsely accused, I remember my experience and how important it is to stand up for the truth. The last thing Jake said to me as he was taken away was, "You'll regret this." I've thought about that a lot. The only regret I have is ever doubting myself. I fought for the truth, and I won. Now when I walk down these streets, I breathe a little easier, knowing I stood my ground. I reclaimed my life and my name. I made damn sure everyone knows exactly what really happened.